paradise. Wedlock, marriage nikah. Bukhari. Book 7. Volume 62. Hadith 124. Narrated Usama. The Prophet said, I stood at the gate of paradise and saw that the majority of the people who entered it were the poor, while the wealthy were stopped at the gate for the accounts. But the companions of the fire were ordered to be taken to the fire. Then I stood at the gate of the fire and saw that the majority of those who entered it were women. Bukhari. Book 7. Volume 62. Hadith 125. Narrated Abdullah bin Abbas. During the lifetime of Allah's apostle, the sun eclipsed. Allah's apostle offered the prayer of the eclipse. And so did the people along with him. He performed a long qiyam standing posture during which Surat al-Baqarah could have been recited. Then he performed a prolonged bowing, then raised his head and stood for a long time, which was slightly less than that of the first qiyam, and recited Quran. Then he performed a prolonged bowing again, but the period was shorter than the period of the first bowing. Then he stood up and then prostrated. Again he stood up, but this time the period of standing was less than the first standing. Then he performed a prolonged bowing, but of a lesser duration than the first. Then he stood up again for a long time, but for a lesser duration than the first. Then he performed a prolonged bowing, but of lesser duration than the first, and then he again stood up, and then prostrated, and then finished his prayer. By then the sun eclipse had cleared. The Prophet then said, the sun and the moon are two signs among the signs of Allah, and they do not eclipse because of the death or birth of someone. So when you observe the eclipse, remember Allah offered the eclipse prayer. They, the people, said, O Allah's apostle, we saw you stretching your hand to take something at this place of yours, then we saw you stepping backward. He said, I saw a paradise, or a paradise was shown to me. And I stretched my hand to pluck a bunch of grapes, and had I plucked it, you would have eaten of it as long as this world exists. Then I saw the hellfire, and I have never before seen such a horrible sight as that, and I saw that the majority of its dwellers were women. The people asked, O Allah's apostle, what is the reason for that? He replied, because of their ungratefulness. It was said, do they disbelieve in Allah? Are they ungrateful to Allah? He replied, they are not thankful to their husbands and are ungrateful for the favors done to them. Even if you do good to one of them all your life, when she sees some harshness from you, she will say, I have never seen any good from you. Bukhari. Book 7. Volume 62. Hadith 126. Narrated Imran. The Prophet said, I looked at paradise and saw that the majority of its residents were really poor. And I looked at the hellfire and saw that the majority of its residents were women. Bukhari. Book 7. Volume 62. Hadith 153. Narrated Jabir. The Prophet said, I entered paradise and saw a palace and asked, whose palace is this? They, the angels, said, this palace belongs to Umar bin al-Khattab. I intended to enter it, and nothing stopped me except my knowledge about your sense of gira self. Respect to Umar. Umar said, O Allah's apostle, let my father and mother be sacrificed for you. O Allah's prophet, how dare I think of my gira self-respect being offended by you? Bukhari. Book 7. Volume 62. Hadith 156. Narrated Aisha. I never felt so jealous of any wife of Allah's apostle as I did of Khadijah, because Allah's apostle used to remember and praise her too often, and because it was revealed to Allah's apostle that he should give her, Khadijah, the glad tidings of her having a palace of Kasab in paradise.